Greg is not here. He's late. He's running late. And because this was just a continuance, we didn't choose any voting members. So I'm going to say, let's get this show on the road.
Make a motion to open the meeting.
Well, hold on. The general public should be aware that this public meeting is being recorded by WRPS. That's number one. Number two, we need, I had a motion. Who made the motion?
Me. Chuck.
All right, we got a motion and we got a second. We got a second to open the meeting. I need a roll call vote. We're going to look at Mr. Hessian.
Yes.
Mr. Baker Jr.
Here.
Mr. Haynes.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go with Mr. Baker, the OG Mr. Baker for
Yes. Yes.
we got all five. So there we go. There's your open meeting. So here we go. I'm going to start off with the continuance public hearing on the application for variance and or special permit filed by Randy LaFlame of 48 Pine Haven Circle Street, whatever. It's Pine Haven. Is it Pine Haven Circle?
Circle.
Okay, Pine Haven Circle. Dimensional variances and or special permit pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, subsection 10 and subsection 415-22, 415-24, 415-89, and 415-89 of the Rockland zoning code, or 89.1 of the Rockland zoning code, to add a garage in the required side yard setback area, a porch in the front yard setback, and a rear deck addition in a side setback. The site is located in the Residence 2 zoning district and is shown on the Rockland Assessors Map, number 1, lot 24. Let's see, a complete copy of all application materials, plans, and other documents may be accessed at the following link: www.rockland-mass.gov/zoning-appeals-board. Okay, that's good. All right, so again, voting members are going to be myself, Mr. Hessian, Mr. Baker Jr., Mr. Baker, and Mr. Haynes. I still do not see a Mr. Tansey, so we're good at this point. Mr. Tansey.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can now.
Yeah, sorry about that. I had to get another computer.
Obviously, you're using Maddie's computer.
Yeah, I am.
Well, it's all good because we've already chosen voting members and you're not one of them.
Oh, okay.
So sit back, relax, enjoy, listen to everybody. Miss LaFlame, I see your microphone's off, but I'm going to come to you first.
Okay, I'm on.
How you doing?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. And again, happy New Year to everybody. It's a new year, so let's start off.
Happy New Year.
Who's going to be taking the lead for you, Miss LaFlame?
Attorney Steve Gard.
It's the Attorney Gard. Where are I? Right there.
Right here.
Good evening, sir. How you doing?
Good, thanks. Nice to see everyone and Happy New Year. So this evening before you is an application filed by Ms. LaFlame for 48 Pine Haven Circle. There exists on a 9,679 square foot lot with 70 feet of frontage in the R2 district, a single family residential dwelling of about 1,582 square feet according to the assessor's field card. Mr. and Mrs. LaFlame are proposing to erect a 2,400 square foot house or an addition or renovate this particular existing structure to a 2,400 square foot home modernized with a 2-car garage. The applicant has requested relief. I submitted a letter today with a revised survey plot plan by Perkins Engineering. I'm not sure that everyone has it. If not, we can share screens and I can show you the updated plan.
I did forward that, just not to interrupt, but I did forward that to all the board members at this point. I don't know if everybody had the ability to look at it, print it, get a handle on it. There wasn't a ton of additional information. There were a couple of extra setbacks that got added. And actually, because it's an updated plot plan, it's an actual PDF. You can actually read it. The original document was missing some information. So did everybody get a chance to view that?
Color coded too.
Yes, everybody's good.
Yeah.
Mr. Rubel, did you get a chance to see that too?
Yeah.
All right.
So
All right, Mr. Guard, please.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Mr. Rose, that there wasn't any changes dimensionally to the structure, to the proposed plan. It was more identifying the various setbacks and relief requested.
Mhm.
And we color coded it for you for ease of identification. I did notice too that in the application, an additional request for relief on the rear yard setback. My letter, the cover letter to it, identifies the actual relief, and it modifies it a little bit. After talking with Tom, this particular applicant can avail themselves of section 34 because there is only 70 feet of frontage. So we're allowed to deduct 1 foot for every 10 feet of frontage on the side yard setbacks. So they're not 15 here, they're 11. So it lessens the burden or the requested relief with respect to the variances required or requested. The front yard, we're asking for 6.9 feet relief for a front covered porch. The left side, 5.8 feet to accommodate the addition and the deck. 4.7 on the left to accommodate the 2-car garage, and then 7.3 in the rear to accommodate again the deck and the deck and the proposed addition. The lot is oddly shaped. It is I said trapezoidal. It could be more of a parallelogram, but a house in the lot is not square to Pine Haven Circle. None of these angles are right angles, and the folks would like to, when they do the addition, to carry the line of the home so that it is a square rather than I don't know how you do it. It would have to be almost literally an angle to maintain or to comply with the current zoning setback. With respect to, as we all know, there's 4 criteria for a variance. With respect to the other 2, I don't think the relief requested would derogate from the purpose or the intent of the bylaw, nor do I think it would have a deleterious effect to the public. As far as the hardship goes, I would defer to Randy, but I think the main gist here is that, a young growing family. The existing home has 2 bedrooms and I think it's a toilet and a sink on the 2nd floor, not even a full bath. And in order to accommodate the needs of a young modern family, this is a house that's more in line with that. The LaFlames they do have the support of 6 or 7 neighbors, and letters have been submitted with the application as well. Both neighbors on either side of the LaFlames have submitted letters in favor of the proposed renovations to the structure as well as the application. The only one that I see that could potentially be addressed in the sense of a special permit or a finding, and under your bylaw it would be a finding for an intensification of a pre-existing non-conforming setback, would be the front setback for the porch. The other ones, I don't see that as an option for us because we are because of the 11-foot setback, we are not already non-conforming on the side yard setbacks or the rear. So those are straight up variances. The front one, you could make a finding that it is non-conforming as it exists, that the proposed 16-foot 6 setback is an intensification of that non-conforming front yard setback, but not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing 23.5. I think Ms. LaFlame submitted some information relative to a couple of houses on the street that are already that close to the street, or they have structures. Pointing out, while it would normally be allowed under your bylaw, the front steps are within the front porch. The existing front steps are drawn within the front porch. So there's already a pretty substantial structure there, but I would be remiss in suggesting to you that was, that would be non-conforming under your bylaw, which it's not. The covered porch is part of the structure that I spoke with Tom about, and we both agree that would require relief requested from the board. So that having been said, if Ms. LaFlame would like to add anything, I'm certainly happy to defer to her, but it's pretty straightforward as far as what we need and the reasons therefore, as well as the shape of the lot and the hardship in this case.
Ms. LaFlame, do you want to add anything?
Well, thank you for calling us young. We're actually old with young kids. So, and we've actually lived on the street for 10 years, and we bought our first house in Rockland, and 99, and we grew up in Quincy, and we didn't know what we wanted to do, but we knew that our kids told us we're not leaving Rockland. So we really want to stay, and we really want a house that will just fit our family and allow them to have, a bedroom, and that's it. And we appreciate your consideration on it. And thank you to Steve for jumping in last minute and trying to, help us out with the application, which is very, very long.
Not long and confusing.
Yes.
It does ask some questions that the general homeowner may not be able to answer.
No.
Especially professional representation is always appreciated on everybody's part. So, if you've got no more to say, I'd like to open it up to the board. Does that work?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Hessian, go for it.
On the proposed rear deck, have you given any other thought to moving it to the other side of the addition to eliminate the requirement for that 6'3"?
No, I think we're totally open to, anything. The rear deck is probably one of the things that,
The rear deck is off the kitchen.
yeah, it's off the kitchen, and
If we
the
moved it
garage would
other
be to
side,
the
it'd
left,
be
yeah.
off the garage.
Yep.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Yeah, one person at a time, only because it's very difficult to.
Sorry about that. The deck would be off the new kitchen. If we moved it to the other side, it would be off the garage.
I
This
think,
is Joe, by the way.
Hey, how you doing, Joe? What's going on? I think what Mr. Hessian is saying to the other side of the addition,
Right,
as opposed to going all the way to the other side of the garage.
Oh, yeah.
abutting the garage.
so I think that if I could chime in, I think we still need relief for this was one of the dimensional identifications that I was hoping to make with the engineer, but I didn't make myself clear when I asked him to update the plan. We would still need relief for the corner of the addition. You can see the corner of the existing house is 11.1. So it does move closer to the lot line. So I
Well,
don't-
that was my next question. I
Yeah,
didn't see
yeah.
that dimension there.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know that dimension, Mr. Hessian. I apologize. In this plan that I have is the same size as yours. It's too small for me to scale off any kind of accuracy. So my position was kind of like, well, we need relief to 6'3", and I don't think you're going to save much because I bet you that other one's probably 7'3" or 7'6",
Yep, probably
Okay.
about 8 feet or so.
Yeah. So
And will there be any living space above the proposed garage,
Yes, a master bedroom, a bedroom
above the garage?
above the garage.
That's all I have right now. I would like to see that dimension on the plan, though, from that far corner of the addition, proposed addition.
No, it's understood. I'm going to go in order of what I've got here on my screen. Mr. Baker Jr., go for it.
Yeah, it's, at least to me, wasn't quite clear from the letter that you submitted with the application. Is this a house that you've outgrown over the years, or is this one you bought in anticipation of being able to expand it?
This is a house that we've recently purchased. We're actually not living it in the moment. We are living in Pine Haven Circle in an in-law apartment.
Yeah.
And, our plan was to renovate it for our family.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing else, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we're going to go next one. Mr. Baker, the original.
I agree with Chuck about the dimensional thing there, but could we even
Want me to leave?
cut the deck in half and put it to the corner of the garage and over, and still keep it at the kitchen?
So basically knock off enough to make it conforming.
A little bit more conforming, and then, instead of having a square deck, have a deck across the whole back of the house itself, not the garage.
That's where I was going with that, Bob.
Yeah.
Our builder.
Our builder's on, right? Chris is there. He could
He may
probably
be
talk
able
to
to answer
that.
that better than us, Chris Alexander.
what if we carried the distance? What if we carried the setback from the corner of the proposed addition with the back corner of the deck? Would that make sense, Mr. Hessian? In other words, the closest point of the sideline would be the corner of the addition, but then that deck might be off a little bit, it might not be perfectly parallel to the side of the house, but, and then maybe they can work the deck the other way. Would that satisfy the board's concern? In other words, the deck would just follow the same distance off the sideline as the addition, rather than get closer to it.
Just an angling out.
I lost you. I understood every word you said, but for some reason it doesn't.
So, Mr. Rosa, you suggested that it's 8 feet to the corner of the addition from the sideline. What if the back corner of the deck was 8 feet from the sideline instead of 6'3"? In other words, it just carried that same distance, so that would not encroach any further towards the sideline than the addition does.
So, okay. I did a little bit of math here. I'm getting roughly call it 8.5 feet to be safe. 8.5 feet off. So you would need, you're looking at about 8.5 feet
From 11.
to the back. From here to here. Here to here. Yeah, do it again. From here to here. You'd be losing about 3.5 feet off the deck.
Yeah. And then we could make up the 3.5 feet on the other side.
On the other side, he could.
Right.
It doesn't encroach on anything. If we did it towards the middle.
The deck would be kicked out at an angle, Tim, I think is what he's saying.
Yeah. If that's what makes it work, I think that the LaFlames would live with that.
I'd be amenable to that.
So angle the deck as opposed to making it a square?
Yes.
Yeah.
Angling it out.
Yep. So that the deck parallels the sideline.
Yep. No, you could do that. You could probably get away with that. The thing is that we would want an actual number, because we need to be able to, when we do our variances, we have to know what specific number we're giving for a variance. So if it is, if it is 8.5 feet, then we need to know that we're giving a 2.5 foot variance. So that's something that's probably going to be required if we go that route.
I don't think we can provide that dimension tonight, Mr. Rosa, but certainly at the next meeting if it's necessary. Or
I agree.
if you voted to give us whatever it is, 2.5 feet of relief, leave the record open so we can submit the plan and confirm that it's 2.5 feet.
Okay. We might be able to do. We can discuss that at the end. Mr. Baker, are you good?
Yes.
Mr. Haynes, talk to me.
Well, I have to say I'm much more concerned about the garage. The deck being only a couple feet off of the ground in that setback is sort of less of a burden on the neighbors than the 2-story addition that's 5 feet off the property line. So I am curious, 2 questions. One would be, what is the existing setback at the addition? It looks like a little family room addition. So I'd be curious what the existing setback is there. Does it meet the 15 feet? Is it 11 feet? So I'd like to know
13.7.
what we're going.
It's third, right?
By
It's
your
13.
measurement.
Yeah, no, not by my measurements. It's 13.7. If you look at the base of the bottom of the plan, there's a zoning table, and that 13.7, which I called, I confirmed with the land surveyor. I called him this afternoon just to make certain. It is 13.7 from the existing.
That's the left.
Yep.
So we've got the required is actually 11.
Yeah.
But they have 13 feet.
Currently, right now, the existing structure is 100%, other than the front setback, the sides and the rear is all conforming, is all 100% conforming.
Yeah. Good. Then my other question is about the driveway, which isn't shown on the plan. But given the size of the garage and the angle of the sideline of the property, what is the driveway going to look like, and how close to the property line will it be when it hits the street? I'd like to know what that will be.
Randy, you can address that. I don't see the driveway on the plan.
Yeah, I don't know if it's on, wait a minute, let me look in the progress set.
I don't think that Mr. Haynes, the driveway has been designed yet. So if you have
No,
concerns, then
yeah.
we can certainly accommodate your, keeping it a certain distance from the sideline if that's necessary, planting some vegetation, certainly along that side to mitigate the impact on the left-hand neighbor for sure.
Yeah, I think that would be a concern. When you come straight out from the driveway, from the garage, it looks like it would be off the property, so need to narrow. I just wanted to see what the condition might be between the porch and the garage. It looked a little tight, so it's of interest in terms of how it would affect the neighbor.
Not to mention the fact that all driveways have to be 10 feet off of the property line.
Yeah. No,
so that's going to go 5 feet into, technically 5 feet into the garage. So that's technically another variance that would necessarily have to be asked for that wasn't asked for in this application.
So those were my questions. And
that's a good point. And maybe the best thing to do is to come back with that dimension for the addition and then a design for the driveway that demonstrates either the 10-foot or the additional relief. To do that. Not that we want to do that, obviously. I don't, Mr. and Mrs. LaFlame, can we keep the driveway 10 feet off the sideline and make it work? I mean, I don't think we can because the relief associated with the garage is.
I don't think the driveway is 10 feet off the sideline now.
It is.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it is.
I don't.
I've died.
Sideline of the.
Not at the front. Not at the front. Not at the front of the front of the street because of the angle of the lot line. I've done some checking on this, so it's at the house where it is. You're more than 10 feet off, but the closer as it goes down to the street, you get closer and closer to the lot line. So currently, right now, it's still pre-existing. It's pre-existing non-conforming. It's nothing we're not even gonna talk about it. It's not worth it. But to utilize the area, the parking area that you're developing here, you're going to end up having another variance that's going to be required for the driveway, which unfortunately was not asked for, so we can't even talk about it really. So that's a concern. Mr. Haynes, you were all set. Let's go to our associate member, Mr. Galley.
I'm just looking at it on Google Earth to see what the driveway looked like, and I would imagine, I know they'll work on it, but I guess they could make the driveway narrow at the top and widen it towards the garage. I don't know if that's something that could be looked at.
Yep, we could do that.
That's the only comment I have.
Okay. And last but not least, Mr. Tanzi, where are you going? There you are.
Sorry about that.
And then you muted yourself.
I had my phone,
You were looking at Facebook. We know. It's okay, dude. We all look at Facebook. Well, you're on. You got any questions?
No, I'm all set.
You good at this point?
Yeah.
If I could just add something too.
Oh, when I leave.
If I could just add something.
Joe.
Mr. LaFlame.
And I apologize if this isn't relevant, but the neighbor to the left, Mark Wheeler, his house is set back significantly from the property line, point one. But the main point is he is fully in support of what we want to do with our renovation. We've discussed it many times, and he's fully on board with what we want to do. if that's relevant.
Okay.
If it's not, I apologize.
No, it is. It's absolutely relevant because what you're doing is you're building a structure substantially closer to your neighbors on both sides. So that is absolutely relevant. My question is what's going to happen with all those trees between yours and his property?
He wants them cut down.
He wants them cut down, and I'm going to pay to cut them down.
Wow. Okay. So that's a good answer. So that's decent. So that works. What else do we got? Let me get the plan. All right. We've talked about this before. We usually in pre-existing non-conforming cases where somebody is already within the setback, there's case law that we've been able to reference to say that if you're already in the setback, going further into the setback is a finding, is not a variance. So yes, on the front, I'm looking at it going from 23.5 to 16.6. That's a decent jump. But if nobody's going to complain about it, then I would tend to look at that as a Section 6 finding. I'm assuming the board members, based on the other cases that we've had with this, because they're already in the setback, that's definitely a Section 6. Is that correct?
Yes.
I would agree.
Yes, everybody
Yes.
everybody looks at it that way. All right, so I'm not worried about the front. Let's see. My suggestion at this point is that everybody looks at where's the zoning that I had? 110 rule. There it is. Less than minimum side yard requirement reduced from 1 foot. But in no instance shall any side yard be less than 8 feet. That's directly from the Rockland zoning code. This is something that basically if the 110 rule is cited, which here it can be cited, 8 feet is typically the number that we're looking at to not have to need a variance. And on the right hand side, if you're basically going to be looking at about 8.5 feet or so, that falls under that 8 feet rule. So again, we'd have to talk about this at the end of the meeting. That's something to look at, basically stating that if you did either angle in the deck or basically step over the deck instead of trying to make the angle, which making the angle is probably, if you step it over, it's easier to frame. But there are creative carpenters out there. I'm sure they can make the angle work too. But holding the 8 foot over there, it would still be a variance, but at least it adheres to our code current. It does adhere to it. The other side, I know what you're trying to accomplish, but I am having a very hard time with 5.2 feet off the lot line. And based on the requirements, the legal requirements for granting a variance, I don't see any of it. We can try and cite lot shape, but the sheer fact is that it's a lot. It has 4 sides. Yes, there's an angle to it, but there are many properties all over the state of Massachusetts that look like this. It's not unto itself. If it was unto itself, then I could say that, yeah, there's a lot shape issue. But this lot shape, the way that I see it, it's all over the place. It's not a singularity. If it was unto itself, I could say that lot shape would be the factor. So I'm kind of having a hard time with what I'm going to have to put into writing when it comes to how we grant the variance, because it's as your attorney will tell you, it's a legal issue. So that's what I'm struggling with at this point. How we can legally grant a variance when in reality, it's a self-imposed hardship. That's the problem that I'm having. So I don't know where to go with this other than the fact that, if there's, let's see, who else is on it? Who else do we got on here? Mr. Rubel. Not still
Yes.
muted. There you go. Do you have any questions for the applicant?
No, I think you pretty much hit everything that I was going to hit. With the setbacks, like you said, everything that they had prior to what they want to do, they were meeting all our bylaws, and it's up to the board to decide what they want to give them. I have no questions.
All right. Is there anybody in the general public that wants to speak in favor of the application? Hearing none, is there anybody that wants to speak opposed? And I got a gentleman waving. Okay, which one's Cheryl?
I'm Cheryl.
No, I'm Cheryl.
Hi, Cheryl. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad. Who wants to speak?
So we live directly across the street right now, where Randy and Joe are living. But
I don't mean to interrupt you. Could I get your name and address for the record, please?
Sure. We live at 31 Pine Haven Circle.
Thank you.
And we live directly across the street. We're in favor of this. Our families have just, it's obviously a personal situation, but our families have just kind of become families through living on the same street for years. And we've watched them go through all this, and we put an addition on our house, and Chris did it, the same contractor, and everybody watched us go through that. So what do you want to say?
We live across the street from them now, but the house that they purchased is also across the street from us.
Okay.
We've all talked with Mark, and Mark is the neighbor to the left. He's on board 100%. I don't know if you know this, but this is actually the house that they bought is actually the house that Chris grew up in. Their contractor. So they sold the house to them to keep them in the neighborhood because they're a benefit and to the neighborhood, and we would be sad to see them go if this couldn't work out. And everyone.
So what you're saying is they make the best chicken wings for the Labor Day parties. Okay,
yeah,
I get it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, we're gonna have problems with our kids if they go.
I understand.
And everyone in the neighborhood loves them, loves the whole family. They all want this. This has been, like they said, a 10-year ordeal trying to get a house on Pine Haven Circle, and they've stayed where they have just to get on the street. And everybody would be sad to see them go if they couldn't do this.
No, that's absolutely understood. I thank you for your opinion. I'm sure the Flames do also. Is there anybody else that wants to speak either in favor or opposed? And again, I'm hearing none. So here's what we're going to do.
Rob, if I may.
Please.
I just remembered up in that area on that bend, there's a couple of catch basins, and the drain goes through the property. I believe it's on the left side.
Yeah, it's on the property line. We wouldn't be interfering with that.
You're saying the drain goes...
No, because I've had to go out there before and clean it out.
Yep.
There's a pipe out there.
There's a pipe that goes into their back?
Yes.
It goes along the property line and enters behind the house in the Hingham Water Department land.
Right.
We would not be interfering with that.
It's on the Mark's property too.
On the left side.
Yes. I wasn't sure if it was more over the line or if it was right down the line.
Let me take a look at the town mapping. Hold on.
Is there an easement there?
That's my problem.
There is.
Yep.
That's what I'm looking for here. If there is, then it might be an issue.
The drainage easement.
It's 4 feet below.
I don't know if it's on the deed or not.
All right, hold on. No, it should, and it should be. If it's not on the deed directly, then it should be, it's going to be on the town's mapping. Hold on.
Tom's looking it up now, it looks like.
Not that one. Not that one. This one.
I don't have it on my zoning map.
No.
We're aware of it, our builder is aware of it, the architect is aware of it. It runs along the property line from the storm drain and then enters in behind into the Hingham Water Department property, and it drains out back.
Okay.
Yeah, we wouldn't be encroaching on that.
I just want to get a good handle on it before.
Sure.
You're going to be updating the drawing. Would it be possible to show that?
Sure.
Yeah. All right, where are you here? You are, come in, go down and around. Come in, go down and around. There you are. There you are. Okay, there is no easement shown on the town mapping. Yeah, that's something that we would definitely want to see. Where's your map again? Because typically these drain easements are about 10 feet wide.
Yeah, it's on both properties.
Is it 10 feet? Is it 10?
What you're saying, or
It's on,
Yeah, is it a total?
yes, it's on to the left house where those like the trees that you see are, and in the wooded, like in that middle set, there's like a middle strip of all those trees. That's where it is. And it goes diagonal from the drain, like here to the back.
Okay. Well,
we're going to need.
if we're updated, I think Mr. Hessian said it the best. If we're going to update this plan, then we're going to want to see the location of the easement, and we're going to want to see the location of that pipe, beginning to end. You need to know. We need to know exactly where that is, because we grant a variance, and we know that there's an easement out there, and we know that there's an easement pipe. Or there's a pipe in that easement. Yeah, we would kind of. I'm not going to say we'd be at fault, but it wouldn't look good if we granted a variance.
Yeah, it's a plastic pipe like 6 feet down that goes into the drain on the street. But wouldn't that be storm? It's a storm drain. Yeah, it's not. It's plastic or PVC or whatever. Say that again.
Under the tree?
Under. It goes under the ground. Yes.
No, it's not under the tree.
No, it's under the ground.
Yeah, it's underground.
And it comes up at the end.
Typically, that wouldn't be HDPE or plastic. That would be
you can
reinforced
you
concrete.
can oh you can see it.
It's not concrete.
It's not.
Can I?
Pipe up. You know it better than we do.
Yes, that basin, we had to repair it a couple of years ago, and the end of the pipe was broken, and we put plastic saw pipe into the basin and onto the clay pipe that goes out back.
All right, so it's a clay pipe.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Wouldn't it be on the town map? Like how, when you say you would need that updated, I mean, we can ask the engineer to come back out, but it has to, he does, I mean, he did what he did with that drawing. How, we would need something also from the town, right? To show us where it is, or.
No, he would end up having to go out, show the location of the catch basin. First and foremost, show the location of the easement if it does exist. That's the first thing. There's another place that I can look just to see if this is the case. No, not that one.
Wouldn't that be in the building department in the?
Not necessarily.
I can tell you, Rob, we've been upgrading the drainage and all the easements and stuff.
Mhm.
So the best bet would be to get a hold of Dave Taylor, the highway superintendent.
Mhm.
He has that all on GPS and stuff now.
Okay. Yeah, at one point it was on, at one point they had the easements on the assessor's maps. I don't see it on that version. And look at this. I don't see it on that version, so they're not on there. Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to, again, if we are updating this plan, then that's something that's gonna have to be shown. Because that's coming again, typically an easement like that is 10 feet wide. Typically, it's 5 feet on both sides, but
Right.
the pipe itself isn't necessarily centered. It could be off-centered one way or the other.
Mhm.
And when you're digging a foundation, no matter how deep you're going, whether it's a knee wall or it's an 8-foot foundation, you're over digging that. So you may be 5 feet off the property line, but the
We're not digging a foundation there, right, Chris?
No, you would have a foundation there for the garage, and you'd overdig it 3 or 4 feet at least.
Right.
Okay.
So you're digging into the easement and have a potential of hitting that pipe. So that's something that we're going to want to see.
Okay, because our architect and everyone we thought is aware, and that the plan didn't interfere with that easement. So now I'm just confused. How do you want to see it, from the engineer or from the architect?
Yeah, from the land surveyor. The land surveyor should update it. If there is an actual easement, documented easement, this should be shown on the plan. That's a kind of a staple thing that usually does happen.
Right. I guess I'm just confused on where is it documented, because no one can seem to find it.
It's not on your deed. See, that's the other thing. If the land surveyor didn't see it on your deed, then it's going to be something. It has to be someplace. All right, there has to be something written, because if there is a pipe out there, and Mr. Baker is a municipal employee, he's been out there, so he knows that this pipe exists. If that pipe exists and cross property, it needs to be in an easement. So that's, and again, not knowing where that pipe is, if we give you a variance to do this, and being that close to the property line, you have a very good chance of destroying that pipe, and then you are responsible for it. I'm basically trying to save you some headache here.
Not only that, when they cut the trees down, they pull the roots out and stuff. They might interfere with that pipe.
That's right. Yank it right out.
Well,
No
folks,
clay pipe.
if I could interject, there's no question that Mr. Rose is correct. I certainly wasn't aware, because there was no easement shown on the plan done by the surveyor. We will, get to the bottom of that, and we will check the title to see if there is a recorded easement against either our property or Mr. Wheeler's property, and we will show that on the plan when we come back in front of you next time. I would, it would be disingenuous to suggest that it would be appropriate for the board to grant a variance for a structure, a foundation structure, into a municipal drainage easement. While certainly it could potentially be legally tenable, it would not be legally advisable, of course. So we need to get to the bottom of that. And we can talk and look at, assessor's maps and town plans all day long. The reality is that the title has to show an easement, and that easement has to be defined as a certain width and located and shown on the plan. So we can make that happen. Obviously, we're hopeful that the easement is entirely on Mr. Wheeler's property, but I agree with Mr. Rosa that oftentimes the easements straddle the lot line, but not all the time. Depends on how big Mr. Wheeler's lot is. His lot is actually looks a lot bigger. So maybe the subdivision, they put the easement on his lot because this lot, our lot in question is a little smaller. But again, we're all speculating. We don't know. So, unfortunately for us, we're going to have to, vet that and show where it is. And we can do that by requesting the land surveyor to look at the title and find the easement and then show it on the plan.
So much of said lot is included within the limits of Pioneer Circle. So much of said lot is included within the limits of the drain easement and leaching field approximately shown on said plan. Is subject to drainage rights in favor of all persons lawfully entitled hereto. That's the certificate of title.
So we'll
That's
look at
directly
that
from the
plan.
certificate of title.
Who owns the easement?
That would be an easement in favor of the town.
So in the plan reference there, Mr. Rosa, because I don't have the title certificate in front of me, does it note a plan that it's referenced on?
Yeah, Land Court, it's Land Court Plan 26,697. 26,697. Hold on here. 26,697. Oh, la la la. That's why I was having a hard time finding it before. It's Land Court. Oh, now we got a problem. It's a, oh no, wait a second. No, we do have a problem. It's a 20-foot drain easement, which is going to be 10 feet either side of the lot line. Your house is inside the easement. Your garage
the proposed garage would be, right?
Yeah.
You could, I would have to look at it, but you can see that it's delineated as 10 feet on either side of the lot line or 20 feet on
if you allow me to share my screen.
Yeah, that'd be great if you could.
All right, hold on. I think that's it. Let's see. Can everybody see me moving around here?
Yep.
See that plan?
Yep.
Lot 8. That's you guys. 20-foot drain easement.
Oh yeah.
That's 20. That's 10 feet either side of the lot line.
I know there was one there.
So that and as you go further back, what they're talking about, the leaching field is out in the back. There's no dimensions on that. I'm not worried about that, but it is a 20-foot easement, which when there's no specific indication as to where the easement is, you usually you go by the derelict fee and say it's the center line. So the center line, the property line, it's basically centered. The easement is centered on the property line. So a 20-foot easement would be 10 and 20 would be 10 foot on either side of the lot line. So that's the issue. So I would entertain a motion for a continuance.
Like to make a motion for a
One question on that, on the easement, it doesn't, it's 10 feet, but 10 feet doesn't, like, it might not be the 5 feet. Do you know what I mean? Like, the
no, I do know what you mean. Randy,
yeah.
You can't put your building into the easement.
No, I understand that.
Right. So
I'm just saying the lot goes diagonal. So where's the easement? Is it?
The easement is centered down that lot line.
Follow the lot line, 5 feet
10
on
feet
either
on
side.
side and 10 feet on the other. That's the easement. So you can't be 5 feet. You can't be 5 feet off the lot line.
So it's 10 feet from all the way from the street, all the way to the back.
10 feet.
The entire property.
10 feet of your property line all the way back.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's that's something again, I think we're at a point where we need to continue this. You're going to need to talk to the land surveyor. You're going to need to get him to plot that easement on the drawing. We're going to need to see where that pipe is in the ground. So he's going to have to take a location of the catch basin, and then he's going to need to take a location at the outlet. Mr. Baker, have you seen the outlet?
Oh yeah. It's
okay, so you know that the outlet exists.
Yes, it does.
All right. So if it came down to
all the way cleaning the leaves out of it this past fall,
and this is the outlet. This is the outlet all the way down at the back end of the property.
Down. Yeah, and then there's like a stone swirl for the water before it goes into the municipal water.
All right, and And last question on that end, is it easily accessible? I'm just thinking that
Yes, you got to
is,
walk
so
through
if you
the
walk
pine. Yeah,
he'll see.
you got to walk
All
through
right.
the pine trees and stuff, but you can get there.
He'll find it. Okay. So
Might even be,
that's
it
what's
might even be flagged, Dave, Rob, because after we fix the base and Holdley's jetted that all the way out for us
okay.
to clean it out.
Well, what I'm going to do then is, all right, first and foremost, I would entertain a motion for a continuance.
I'll make that motion for a continuance.
I got a motion. I need a second. I have a second. I need a roll call myself. That's a yes. Mr. Hessian,
Yes.
Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Haynes,
Yeah.
and Mr. Baker Jr. All right. So yeah, we're gonna continue to Kim. What do we got for open?
In 1 second, I'm pulling it up.
Yeah.
23rd February.
That should be more than do we have anything on the 9th?
We do have something on the 9th.
I think we have Shingle Mill. Right?
Yeah.
Shingle Mill on the 9th.
Did we make the 9th or the 10th? Or maybe that the 2nd or something?
No, it's on the 9th at 6.
Shingle Mills only, right?
Yeah, Shingle Mill only. So the 23rd.
Right.
All right. And the 19th we're booked up.
When we decided, I thought we were doing this the 1st and the 3rd. 1st and 3rd Tuesdays. And when we did Shingle Mill, we said that was the 2nd, and the 16th would be the 1st and 3rd.
We also got Concord Street on February, don't we?
No, Concord Street's on the 19th of this month.
Oh, okay.
All right. Yeah. So okay, that squashes that. I didn't want to do 19. Nothing else can be on with Concord Street. So the 19th is out. So again, what we're looking at is the second. What were the February dates? February dates again, Kim?
I had the 23rd, but
I'll continue it to the 23rd of February.
23rd at 7:30.
Yes.
And that should be more than enough time to get the surveyor out there to locate the pipe, get that on there. Mr. Flame, you're the one that's doing the contact with the land surveyor, or?
Could we just, when we talk about the dates, am I wrong saying we generally meet the 1st and the 3rd Tuesdays? That's the 2nd and the 16th. And I thought we fixed this with Shingle Mill, that it's not the 9th, it's the 2nd.
I can check with Galvin. I have on my record in the notes the February 9th.
That's what I have.
At 6:30 p.m.
That's what I have, the only thing on the agenda.
I thought when we talked about that, we switched it to the 2nd before we were done. For this, I brought this up for the same reason, that we meet the 1st and the 3rd Tuesdays. So, and that's actually the 2nd and the 16th.
I know it's say February 2nd.
Okay, so I can talk to Galvin about that, but in regards to this one, do you want to do it on the 16th? And I can talk to Galvin about Shingle Mill.
At this point, let's just set a date, and if we have to modify said date, we will do so. Either way, if we do the 16th or the 23rd, that's still more than enough time for the surveyor to be able to take care of everything that needs to be taken care of. So whoever's making the motion, pick a date.
I'll make a motion to February 23rd.
All right, February 23rd at 7:30.
Second.
Okay, I got a second on that. And again, if this has to be changed based on a mistake in the schedule, everybody will be notified on that. All right, so we need we got a motion, we got a second, need a roll call. Myself is a yay. Mr. Hessian,
Yes.
Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Haynes,
Yes.
Mr. Baker Jr.
Yes.
Okay, before everybody goes, I just want to go over I want to go over what the surveyor needs to show on the plan. So we're a little bit, so everybody is on the same page. Who is doing the coordination with your surveyor?
I'll take care of it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Number one, we need to know where that easement is. Number two, we need to know where that pipe falls within that easement, the beginning and the end of that pipe. That's number two. Number three, we need to see we're going to need to see the proposed offset off the back of the 14-foot proposed addition wall to the right-hand side property line. If you are so inclined at this point, show us what the angle on the deck would be to maintain that same offset.
Okay.
All right, parallel to the lot line. And in the end, I think you're gonna have to look at redesigning the garage, because there's no way it can be 5 feet off the line. It's gonna need to be a minimum of, I would say, a minimum of 10.5 feet off the lot line. That gives 6 inches clearance between the edge of the easement and the edge of the foundation. But even at that, when you over dig the foundation, it's still going to be digging into that easement. So that's another reason why we need to know where the pipe is.
And that's why you want to know where the pipe is, right? Because reality is that they can put the pipe on that 10-foot mark. I mean, they can put it wherever they could move it wherever they wanted. But your concern is that if we put the foundation 10.6 off the line, we over dig. You want to make sure we're not going to damage the pipe. I got you. And if we do, we'll be responsible for fixing it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that's a given. But also when you're looking at a spread footing for that foundation, that spread footing is going to be at least 8 inches further out than the corner of the actual foundation, which puts that in the easement.
Oh yeah,
so
no.
Anytime
it would have to be the closest point of any part of the foundation would have to be 10.6 away from. It have to be 10.6. You can't be 10.6 at the surface and then in 9 feet, 5 feet down for the footing. No, I got it.
Yeah, so that's going to have to be taken into consideration, because you do not want that footing. You don't want the footing itself either inside the foundation, inside the easement whatsoever. So it's
understood.
It's a difficult situation when you're dealing with easements. So again, I'm looking at potentially 10.5 feet. It may have to be 10.8 feet. It really comes down to the surveyor's calculation as to where that foundation footing is going to end up in relation to the easement line. So I think that covers it. Everything. Does anybody else have anything that they need to see that they want to see on the plan?
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah, of course.
To the flames. I did not bring this up to put a damper on your future home, but I have to look out for the town's best interest. Okay?
Completely understand.
In your interest too, because someone goes in there and start digging and rips that pipe up, that could cost you tens of thousands of dollars to replace that pipe.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Bagel. Completely understand.
Yeah, I apologize on behalf of us and the applicant for I just wasn't aware that this was not shown on the plan, and it was clearly an oversight on our part, and we will get it squared away and put it on the plan. It wasn't.
We actually asked the surveyor when he came out. And
so clearly there was some sort of misstep here, and we'll square it away with the surveyor.
No, that's fine. That's understood. Mistakes happen,
Rob?
but yes, Mr. Haynes.
I would add some form of just at least some information about the driveway.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
About the driveway. Yeah.
Some sort of design on the driveway showing distances off the lot line. Again, knowing that in the town of Rockland, you're technically supposed to be 10 feet off the lot line with the edge of the paving. So that would be good to see as well.
Well,
Nice.
they can
Anything
probably
else?
check with Dave Taylor, the highway superintendent, because he's putting all that drainage stuff as they camera it and stuff on CDs for the town, so that we can update the town maps to show the easements. So they might
No,
want to
that's
check.
understood. But in the end, my suggestion is put it on the surveyor.
Oh, they got it. Yeah, they
You know,
got it. But he might have the exact location of where that pipe is, when he cameraed it.
We're going to make the surveyor is going to have to show that as well, because in the end, Dave's stuff is not in relation to this stuff, so it needs to be in relation to what the surveyor is putting together. So either way, I think everybody knows what we're talking about. Is that yes?
Yep.
All right, well, Flames, I'm sorry, but again, as Mr. Baker said, this is kind of in protection for you as well as the town. I don't know if she's swearing at me. Her mic was off.
No, this is just stressful.
No, I know it's extremely stressful. Believe me, I know. But in the end, if you put your foundation, your house, your brand new house into the easement, and let's say 30 years from now you want to sell that house, you got a problem.
By then.
That's a big thing, and the potential that surveyor is going to exist in 30 years to be able to sue him is not. It's a difficult situation. It's protection for you. It's protection for the town. That's about all I can say.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very
Talk
much.
to the surveyor. He'll make it. I know he'll be able to make it right.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good
All
night.
right, we got one more meeting. We got one more meeting to deal with here, guys. Let's see.
Can we hang up?
All right, here we go. I'm gonna read the legal. We got public hearing on the application of Atlantic Automotive GE LLC, George L. Shalouf, manager, for a special permit pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 9, and the Rockland zoning bylaws, subsection 15-14C and 415-89, to change the condition of the existing special permit filed June 25th, 1999, that issued a special permit to George Latouf, Atlantic Automotive, to a proposed new special permit holder, Atlantic Automotive GE LLC, associated with an automotive agency used car sales. The subject premises is located at 50 John A. Dunn Memorial Drive, Rockland, Massachusetts 02370. More specifically, on the Rockland Assessors Map 51, Lot 84, and is located in the B2 Business Zone District. The owners of the property are Jacoby LLC, pursuant to the governor's. That's all. I'm not going to worry about any of that. The applicant and all interested parties are advised to check the town website and the zoning board's webpage for additional information and remote meeting details. All right. Who's here? Who's here from Atlantic Automotive?
Me. Good evening.
Is that you, George?
Yes, this is me.
Nice. All right. Let's see. We're going to talk about voting members. It's going to be myself, Mr. Hessian, Mr. Haynes, Mr. Baker Jr., and Mr. Madeline. Mr. Tansey. All right. All right, George, talk to us. Tell us what you want to do.
All right. I bought this property back in January. I took it over in April of last year. And I was in the process of doing the used car, but the pandemic happened. So it took all that time to happen. And I just want to grow up my business and keep my employees employed because, like, everybody knows, like, it's slow right now. And I just want to, like, grow up my business and keep my business for a long time.
Understood. I'm going to ask you a couple questions, sir.
Yes, sir.
Do you have an existing car dealership someplace?
No, I don't.
Okay, so this is a first time. Have you ever had a car dealership before?
I used to work for my cousin. He has a gas station in Cambridge, so I used to work for him, and he has a used car dealer license over there.
All right, so you have some experience. You have a decent amount of experience with car sales, with auto sales at this point.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Well, I have other questions, but my board members come first. So I'm going to go to Mr. Hessian. How you doing, sir?
Good, sir. I guess my question is going to be directly right to the site plan. This was done 21 years ago, and even looking at the special conditions back then, some of them have not been met on this current, even on that plan. So I don't think there's enough information on this plan as it exists to comply with usual classifications for a Class 2. Specifically, item 14. So I'd want to see a new site plan. I think one of the most important things we can do is be consistent in town, and we've required others to do so.
Mr. Hessian, what I'm going to tell you is, no, I agree with you 100%. Let's see. I'm just, I took it upon myself to start taking some of this information because I do agree with you that this plan is deficient. The thing is that it's been like this forever. All right. And the issue that I came up with is, there we go, and that, and all back. The existing, let's see. Come on. Everything seems to be working. The biggest problem that I'm coming up with is the number of spaces or the number of cars that we're trying to deal with.
Well, that shed doesn't even exist there anymore.
Exactly.
There's no disposal area identified. No dumpster area identified.
Are the gates even there anymore?
The gates are there.
Gate is there, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And let me just get this so I can see it on my own screen. Utilizing the town's mapping, utilizing some of the registry information as well as some of the information that's available at the town hall. What I ended up doing was doing a couple of overlays to try and figure out if there is actually enough area within the fence to be able to make 30 parking spaces work. Because you're asking for George, you're asking for a 30-car license, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So my question is, if I told you that the fence as shown on the plan that you supplied is incorrect, and this is a problem, all right? I've done some math, and you can't get 30 cars back there. It's impossible. The town of Rockland, most towns, but most specifically the town of Rockland, has space requirements, 10 by 20, 9 by 18, and I think we can even look at 70% of those can be the compact space sizes. I ran some calculations. I can't get 30 spaces back there. And the thing is that the way it's been operating, I went back in history and looked at aerial photos. The most cars that I've ever seen out there, 24. That was the largest number of cars that I saw in that back parking lot, because you need to be able to maintain a travel distance all the way around to most specifically get in that back door. And again, I think we've talked about this. I was a customer at Atlantic Automotive for a long time, so I know this property very well.
Okay.
And I know that the two previous owners that were running car sales out of here never had that many out there. The license may have existed for 30 cars, but they never had that many for sale out there. And they definitely weren't displayed. So I'm looking at all the information that you're presenting. I went out on my own and I started looking at some decent information that the town does have. You're not going to get 30 cars back there. This is why, and again, I probably jumped in a little early, but I know the rest of the board members are also going to have the same comment on the quality of the site plan that was provided. My biggest issue is I know what's been going on out here. You're not trying to change anything.
No, I'm not.
Right. You're not trying to change anything. So my big question to you is, let's assume we all vote in favor for this. You go to the town, you go to the selectmen, and you go for your license. They give you the license. How quickly are you going to try and put 30 cars in here? Is it going to happen like that?
No, to be honest with you, I don't have the capabilities right now to put 30 cars.
Okay. So having said that and having the board members hear that, I want to get back to the board members. I want them to ask their own questions because I've been talking way too much here. Who's speaking? We're going to go for Mr. Haynes. Do you have any questions for the applicant, sir?
I don't have any questions. It's just I have the same concerns everybody has, that we should have a plan with numbered spaces and up-to-date conditions. And I would say I would have had a question in general, just because there's a special permit on the property now, am I wrong to think that doesn't automatically carry over? It's not like a variance or something that carries. It's like so it has to be applied for
exactly
as a new entity. So
exactly.
So it's not just a name change. So I have no issues with the business and the person and this going on, but I would want to see a new plan with all the up-to-date conditions that we require, including numbered spaces and concrete blocks, for park stops, curb stops. So clearly what's on the plan, like the vinyl slats, things like that, the privacy don't exist now. So conditions are somewhat different. So let's update it and make it good. And that way, most importantly, what we're trying to do is have an enforceable plan, something that Tom can have when he goes out and he verifies the number of cars, the number of repair cars, the number of employee spaces, that everything is where it's supposed to be.
And I would like to just reiterate, Mr. Chairman, that was my only concern. I have no concern at all with the business. It's just that I agree with you. An updated, up-to-date drawing. Again, this is 21 years old.
No, that's absolutely understood. Mr. Baker Jr., do you have any questions for the applicant?
I have no questions for the applicant, and all I'm going to say is just I agree with what's been stated so far by Mr. Haynes, and Mr. Hashem. So
thank you, sir.
We need a new and accurate plan.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Tanzi, talk to me.
Yeah, I'd like to see a layout, just showing how the organization and management of the inventory of automobiles is going to be circulated and stored, and make sure that there aren't any safety issues. A suggestion to the applicant, he might want to consider. He says that he can't get 30 cars on the lot right away. After a year, if he thinks, and I'm just throwing the number out, 10 or 15 cars is what he's going to be, regularly selling by the end of next year. Maybe he should apply for that amount rather than trying to shoehorn things in. And he can, if he's got the ability to expand, he can always come back to the board to, to modify the permit to increase his license. I think we should, if he's going to come back and have an updated plan, we should probably give him a little bit of direction. The property hasn't changed. And I know that we have, our 10-foot buffer, and we've always been a kind of a stickler on that. But it is an existing condition, and to the best of my knowledge, it's surrounded by pavement on all three sides. You've got the Walgreens in back, and of course the shopping plaza off to the right as we look at the plan. I mean, I'm really not overly concerned about the buffer on this particular lot, seeing that it's an existing condition. It's not abutting a residential area. To be consistent, we have required floor drains with gas traps. I see a sewer manhole on the plan. It looks like there's some type of a gas trap and a probably for floor drains and whatnot, and I think that's good, but I'd like to verify that just to be consistent with what we've done with other dealerships. So that environmental issue, the safety issue with an updated plan, just showing the layout, parking layout. The applicant should determine a realistic number he should be seeking to apply for, rather than just throwing out, an obsolete 30 number. And I think that's about it. That's what I was seeing.
No, that's understood. What I'd like to do is I'm going to do that whole. Oh, actually, hold on. That was Mr. Tanzi. Where am I? Mr. Galley.
I don't really have a concern. I was just curious. This business will basically be operating like it had been before, like the gas station, the repairs, inspections, and then whether they're continuing or adding a used car lot. If that's what the business will be. What it was before.
George, you want to answer that?
Yes, I mean, I operate as a gas station and a repair shop, and there was a used car dealer license. So the only thing I was trying to get like more business and keep my employees and like get my business like booming a little bit, because I just bought it like brand new like last year, not even like 8 months ago. So I'm just trying to stay on my feet like with the business. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah, you wouldn't even know it if you drove by it. You wouldn't even know that there was ever car sales going on there. There's never been cars for sale outside of that fenced-in area. That's it's a blind business because you'd never even know, and that's kind of a nice thing about this business being where it is. You know it as a gas station, you know it as a service station, but you don't necessarily know that it's a car dealer. When we think car dealers and Class 2 licenses for the rest of the town, everything is kind of out in the open, right in front of your face. You see it all the time. You know that it's a car dealer. This one is a little bit under the radar, which is, I like that. I think that's nice. And I'd like to see this business continue. My big problem is that I didn't even go to Mr. Baker yet. Got anything to talk to the applicant about?
One thing to Chuck, that soil easement that comes down through that property, Chuck?
Yeah.
To the sewer easement?
Mhm.
If there's a manhole cover in there, can they have that parking space over that?
No.
So that has to be shown on the plan if there's any manhole covers there. And that would have to be painted out, no parking. In case something happened that the sewer department had to get to that manhole cover at night or during the day. They would have to have access to that manhole cover. So that would eliminate any parking space on that cover.
So if that is, so what you're saying is that if there was an accessible structure inside the parking lot,
right,
you're not allowed to park on.
They cannot park a vehicle over that.
No.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
really?
True. The other thing is the one that we had for Union Street, we made them number the spaces for employee parking, for customer parking, and for used car sales.
That's
right. That should be shown on this plan too.
That and this needs to be specified at this point. Yes, shown on the plan, but does not need to be painted on the ground. That when it comes to the numbering of spaces, it's more for the benefit of the building inspector, the building commissioner, the zoning enforcement officer, to just be able to look at it and go, okay, they're supposed to have this many, this many, this many. I don't care where you park them. I don't care where you park them inside the gate. There's other things that we should talk about. Again, there's never been any cars for sale outside of that fence.
No,
that's
like you said.
Should be, that's definitely something that should be maintained. But again, like I said, doing some calculations based on existing topographical mapping that the town has, recorded plans from the Registry of Deeds, former plans that are available at the building inspector's office. I've been able to take all that information and put that together, and based on the current zoning bylaw when it comes to the dimension of parking spaces, I can't see you getting 30 spaces back there. I don't think it's possible. What I can do is I'm going to share my screen real quick, and I'm going to show you what was submitted. I don't even know the date on this. I'm going to show you this though. Hold on. I'm going to show you this. Everybody see that?
Yeah.
All right. That was submitted, I'm assuming, when George Latouf came in to get his dealer's license. Now, I saw this a while ago, and you see these parking spaces. This is where he got the 30 spaces from. All right, 1 through 13, 14 through 23, and then you've got customer parking space. And this physically does not work. Mathematically, this does not work. It's not to scale. The biggest problem is this is what was accepted back in the day. We can't accept this quality anymore because we get the former board gave the permit based on this drawing, and it's physically impossible to put this drawing on the ground. There's not enough space for all of this. He had 30 spaces. And then he had another 8 spaces for customers. It's physically impossible to make this work. And this is before this is before this propane area got removed. When he was doing this propane area was still here, and he still tried to go for it. He still presented that he could get 30 spaces in there. It's physically impossible. It's physically impossible to do it. So this is the biggest reason why the board kind of needs to see this, because you want 30 cars. That's great. We give you 30 cars, but we can only give you the number of cars that you can actually fit on the property. So if you're not going to be able to put 30 cars in there within a year and a half or something like that, maybe you go for 10. Say you start out with 10 cars. You figure out where you can park everything, make it all work. All right. Again, you're still going to have repair spots. You're still going to have to have areas for cars that are waiting to be repaired. You're going to need, I'm assuming you have a car. I know that currently you have, is it 3 mechanics?
3 employees, yes.
All right, it's 3 employees, but is that 2 mechanics and
2 mechanics, gas attendant,
and then the gas attendant? So you have 4. So, and again, as the owner, you're not necessarily there all the time, but I'm assuming as the boss, you're going to want your own parking space. So not only do with the 30, you're looking for 30 parking spaces, plus you're looking for repair spaces, plus you're looking for handicap spaces, plus you're looking for a minimum, and per our zoning bylaw, a minimum of 5 spaces. All right. Well, no, that's a minimum of 5. Forget that. A minimum of 4 spaces for employees. So right off the bat, I mean, you're looking for a 30, 34, at least 1 for the handicap. That's 35. And then repair spaces. I'm assuming you're going to need at least 5 repair spaces. You're going to need 40 parking spaces on site. And we need to see where those are. That's the problem. That's the big problem. So 30 spaces working, it's physically impossible to get them behind the garage. And I know where a lot of people park out there. I know where George used to park. I know where the mechanics used to park. Everybody parked in the gate. So that would leave space on the side of the building where the gas tank is, which technically you shouldn't have anybody parking over the gas tanks anyway, but that's usually where, like the underground storage tanks. That's on the left. That's on the left-hand side of the building. That's usually where, if my car was getting fixed, they'd pull it out and they'd put it over there, and then I'd come later in the day and I'd pick it up. So, and over there, there is some space for parking, but as the board, we kind of need to see that. I don't think anybody has an issue with the business. I think everybody wants to see the business continue. We want to see it grow, but the problem is that based on the information that we were given, based on the information that's been presented prior to you, we don't have enough information to be able to make this work. So I don't know. I don't know how to proceed here, because I think we can grant this. I think we can grant this with conditions and make the site plan a condition.
Okay.
So and again, I don't know if that's how we do it. Because I want to see this business continue. I don't want to hinder this at all, but this board needs to know how many cars we can actually grant.
Right.
I need some ideas from the board here.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
I'm going to my vice chair right now.
Yeah, I think probably how we've done it in the past on something like this, we've proceeded but with a continuance. Because, he does want to make sure that sewer easement is clear of any manhole obstructions that could impact his count and his operation. And it's for the benefit of George as well, the applicant. Because he really, he's got to be able to assess, a realistic count. And the count, he's got to consider parking for himself, his employees, repair vehicles that come in, and customers. You know, I mean, I don't see a problem with the customer parking being outside the fence, but you know, your inventory you really want inside the fence. You know, you might need to keep some of the overnight storage cars. You'd probably, you know, if it's a 2 or 3 day repair, you'd certainly want those cars stored inside the fence or inside the bay, just for the customer's protection.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and these are the things that the applicant has to consider and you know, assess. And I think it's for his benefit as well as ours that you know, we get an updated site plan.
Mr. Baker Jr., raising your hand.
I am. I wouldn't be prepared to vote for this with conditions. I would much rather and be much more comfortable seeing a revised, updated, accurate plan reflecting the kinds of things that we've talked about. One of the things I want to make sure I understand correctly, that I'm assuming it's the intention that any cars for sale will be parked within that fence lot.
Yes.
And that's how it's always been. I mean, everybody parked back there. Absolutely everybody. Typically what it was is all gas sales. That was easy. They enter from both sides of they would enter from both sides of the island, and that whole area in front of the building has always maintained no parking to facilitate the gas sales. Typically people would pull up in the far entrance closest to the gate. They'd park there. They'd walk over to the building and just say, hey, I'm here for my appointment, or hey, I need a sticker, or hey, can you take a look at my car? And then the mechanic would come out, get in the car, and then take the car into the backyard, or into one of the front bays. So there wasn't a ton of customer parking, necessary for what they had going on, because there wasn't a lot of car sales. But if all of a sudden the car sales do start to pick up, then you have customers driving in a car to park someplace to go check out another car. So it's a slightly different. It's not different than what they had going on there, but it's actually trying to make it different. Make it more of a car dealership. But again, Mr. Baker, who's next? Mr. Hessian, you got anything to say? Okay. Well, we couldn't hear you say it anyway, so we'll go to Mr. Haynes.
Sorry about that.
It's all good.
You want to repeat that? No, I concur, though I am confused about something you said, Rob, which is about seeing the lines painted, because I would want all of our standard conditions, and I would think that in order to have a used car lot, the parking spaces, the parking lot will have to be lined, the spaces numbered.
Oh, striped, yes, absolutely striped, but not physically numbered on the ground. This has been something that has gone back and forth with people. They think that that we want them to put numbers on the ground, so
gotcha. They
can only park the car for sale in 1 through 3, and they can only park the repair spots in 5 through 9 or something like that. I don't think anybody cares specifically where each car is parked, as long as it's all within in this case, it's all within the fenced area, and it doesn't exceed. We're not trying to exceed what can actually mathematically fit back there. If you can only get 25 spaces back there, that's it. That's all you got. 25 spaces to work with for everything.
In Tom's case, it's really just its enforceability. So he has to just be able to know which cars are for what purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's it. Yeah.
And it really comes to, and honestly, it really comes down to the number of unregistered cars on the property. You know, if the license says he's got 30 cars, 30 cars for sale, and he's got 35 unregistered vehicles, then we got a problem. That's basically what it comes down to. So definitely stripes on the ground. And I had talked to George. George was planning on striping it anyway. Which brings up another basically another comment. The only way you're going to be able to stripe this, you can't just contact the striping company and say, hey, I need this parking lot stripe. This parking lot stripe. They're going to need a piece of paper that says this is how we stripe it. They can't just wing it. I don't think any striping company, and even when Mr. Saucier was on the board, he would even say it. He's not going to wing it. He needs something to go by. So that's something that really needs to be on there. My board members, I'm good. Mr. Galley, raise your hand.
Yes, I don't know if this is naive, but I don't know. I know you were saying that the parking lot couldn't fit 30.
Mm-hmm.
Something that could be approved for like 5, 10, or 12 cars to get him started, with the condition that he get a plan and to show how much he could fit later. I don't know if that's a factor or a possibility.
I'll be honest with you, that's kind of where I was going. All right, that's kind of where I was going, because I've done enough calculations, and I can show you that he's not going to get more than 25. I know that. But I know that if we looked at it and said, all right, let's give him a 10-car license. Let's say we give him a 10-car license, and that leaves, let's say, four spots for employees. That leaves, 3 or 4 spots for repairs, because typically their repairs are going to be stored inside. All right, they're going to be stored inside, and then they're going to be pulled out in the morning to pull in the new cars. So there's always going to be a back and forth with the repair cars. So if we said 10 cars for the sales, 4 cars for employees, let's say 3 cars for repair, and 1 handicap. So that's, what is that? 10, 4, 4, and 4. Is that what I did? Is that 22?
23.
23?
Yep.
I've just won that off the top of my head, but that's basically the number of spots that I was able to squeak out of it. And again, if you look at Google Earth and go back through the years, you can go all the way back to 95. When they were shoving 25 cars in there, these cars were literally right on top of each other. You could barely open the doors. There were boats in there. There were CDL trucks in there. And this was, again, bumper to bumper and door handle to door handle. So and that was 25 cars with barely enough room to make the circle around to be able to get into that back garage. So I'm just wondering, I hear what you're saying, Mr. Galley. I don't know how the rest of the board feels about that, but that's kind of where I was thinking. That's kind of where I was going. But on the flip side of that comment, we have to stay consistent with everything else that we've ever done for Class 2. We've required this from every other Class 2. The one great thing that we got going, it's paved. The whole thing is paved, and the paving is in good condition. So we don't have to make the man pave the place. It's already in good condition. We just need to know how many cars can actually fit out there. So, Mr. Baker, talk to me. You're the last board. You're the last member here to.
You've said it all. Everybody has said it all.
Too much. So
you just need it on a plan.
That's really what it comes down to. So my gut feeling is that
continuance.
Yeah, I would add. I would entertain a motion for a continuance. The only person that we haven't heard from is Mr. Rubel. Trouble, where are you?
Did I wake him up?
Yes.
Mr. Rubel, you've heard all the board members, you've heard myself beat this to death.
Yeah.
What do you want? You got anything to say?
I feel as though that as the enforcement officer for Class 2 licenses, I will say that this is a little bit different because it's all fenced in. The cars that are for sale will be in the fenced in area. I agree with the board as far as getting something lined up, having the cars so that he knows how many cars he can put in there. I don't believe that he needs to spend $4,200, $5,000 on a complete site plan of the whole lot, where this Class 2 license is inside that fenced area. If you can bring up that old picture that you had, I would say, this is just my suggestion now. If you bring up that old picture and you take John Dunn Drive, how many cars he can get on that end of John Dunn Drive, at least give him that to start. And leave the rest of that fence in open, leave it blank. Just give him enough for the front of John Dunn Drive. And
that's kind of where I've been.
Then he can come back with the board with everything lined, repair cars, employees' cars, handicap cars, no parking on the S, whatever. But at least give him something to buy some cars on John Dunn Drive. And leave the rest of that fenced-in area alone.
I would tend to. I am going to come right out and say I do agree with the zoning enforcement officer that is feasible. And I can get, if that were the case, because it's already paved, because the fence is already there, and I've done enough looking, I've done enough checking here that front fence is all on his property. He can park right up to that fence and not have to worry about it like they have been the entire time.
He may only get 7-10 cars there, but whatever it is on the front there facing John Dunn Drive, I'd say at least give him that so we can start. And then come back to the board with the new drawings, all new conditions. All these conditions are going to be all done all over again. Some of them are far-fetched. Some of them are good, but you need to go over the conditions again, along with the new drawing. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. If the board were so inclined, I can pretty much guarantee that he can get 8 parking spaces along that fence along John Dunn Drive. He can get 8 spaces in there and have the entire parking lot to be able to deal with employee parking, handicap parking if necessary, customer parking, basically all of the parking at this point inside of that fence. I think the only person that I ever saw parking outside of the fence was your gas attendant. I think that was his car that he's always parking outside of the fence right up by the street.
Yep.
Okay. So he's the only one that I've ever seen parking there. Technically, he can't park there. That's in the town. That's in the town's right of way. He can't park there, technically. So how's the board feel? Do we give him a? Do we look at it and say, yeah, we can give him an 8-car license to start?
Okay, before we do that, I'd just like to raise one concern.
Please.
Are we leaving ourselves open for a broadside from previous decisions that have ended us up in court? Yeah, I think you know where I'm going with this.
Of course I know where you're going.
I think we've got to be...
Many years in court.
Hold it. We just got to be careful. We've got to be consistent. I'm all for George getting a license, but I want to make sure we're doing it the right way.
Sure.
That we're not going to get bit.
Okay.
You know where I'm going with that.
No, I think everybody knows where you're going with it. I think that at this point, if if George were to contract with a survey company, we're not talking about the property lines at this point. We're not talking about the property lines. I can say that fence is reasonably on the property line all the way around that,
I'm sure it is, but
I can say that it's reasonable. If that land surveyor comes out, locates that side of the building, all the corners of the fencing, he's got that on paper now, knowing that the edge of paving goes right up to the fencing. That's where you start. That's where you start the base of your parking spaces, and does a parking layout all the way around. My point is that that's less money than having to have the entire thing done out. It's way less money. That's number one. It's just as accurate, but it's way less money. If we make this a condition that, yeah, we'll grant it, but here's all the conditions for a class 2. But the number 1 condition, show us a plan done by a surveyor detailing the fenced in car storage area with a parking lot with an initial parking lot layout showing a minimum of 8 cars for sale, 4 cars for employees, and then, like I said, 4 cars for let's call it 3 cars for repairs and 4 cars for customers. Do that again. That's 8, 8, and 8. That's 16, right? No, 15. Did I do that right?
I got 15.
All right. Give us as one of the conditions would be number 1 condition. Give us a parking lot layout as done by a professional surveyor, detailing the fenced in area only, with the building shown, and give us a parking lot layout on the inside. Show us that you can get at least 15 cars in there, and we'll give you an 8-car license. That I know that's a no-brainer. That's an absolute no-brainer, because if you can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I can get 23 cars going all the way around the perimeter. That's 23 cars just going around the perimeter. The problem is that when you get into the center, the way that the other plan showed it, there's not enough room. You don't have the 23-foot backup area to make any of the parking spaces in the middle.
All right, are we closing the public part of the meeting?
I want to get a feeling from everybody, because I think we can make this work. I think we can make this work and get get this applicant at least going now, so that he can see what I'm talking about, what we're all talking about, and then if he's able to figure out a way to come up with 30 spaces for 30 cars to be sold. If he can figure out a way to come up with it, if mathematically somebody else can do it, go for it.
What would be the time frame for that layout? The preliminary layout.
The preliminary layout, the way things are going right now, you would probably need to schedule. The applicant would need to contact a surveyor tomorrow, find somebody that would be willing to take it on, and we probably wouldn't even see a plan for about 2 months, if we're lucky. 2 months.
Help them get going.
Mr. Baker Jr.
Nervously, I'm willing to let them get going.
Right, same here.
I don't know what Mr. Hessian is referring to, and my sense is I don't want to know, but rather than deal with this incrementally and on a 21-year-old plan, I would not be, as I said earlier, be prepared to vote on it until I see that plan, ideally reflecting how many cars can fit in there, rather than going on assumptions.
No, I hear you. I absolutely hear you. Mr. Haynes, talk to me. How would you? What are your thoughts here?
Ooh, I could be persuaded to go along with something temporary on the basis that there's been an ongoing business there and it's existed, with at a reduced number, if that is what the applicant would like us to entertain. Otherwise, it should be a plan submitted with a number, and and we go forward as typical. So I would take direction from the applicant on what they'd like to do, and at your direction. But I could be persuaded uncomfortably towards that, but I would be. This is times right now, as opposed to even in the a year ago, times call for like a little bit of leeway, I think. So I'd be.
No, I agree. Your candor is most appreciated. Mr. Tanzi.
Okay. Well,
wake up.
There isn't a paving issue because he's already done that. And that's a big issue with a lot of these class 2s. There isn't a grandfathering issues. And that has been some of the things that have happened in the past. It's ideally situated. It's not up against a residential area. It has been a class 2 for going way back. And it's been a class 2 without any history of issues. So, I mean, if we wanted to give them a eight car license to get started, give them a couple of months or maybe 3 months to get a full plan into us for a discussion to expand up to a greater number if he so desires. I'm not opposed to that because I agree. This site could support an 8-car class 2 license.
I'd buy.
Right now. But if we go above that, we'd really have to.
We'd need a full site plan.
Yeah, we have to see what's going on and evaluate that and make sure that it's viable. So that's where I'm at.
All right, I'm going to Mr. Zoom user, applicant, George.
Yes, sir.
How do you feel? How do you feel about this?
I mean, I'm grateful for all the help. I would have done like a site map, but to be honest with you, like my financial are not that great recently. And
you don't have to talk about it. We all understand. We're all kind of in the same boat. That's why I'm not trying to suggest anything. I'm not trying to lead anybody. I don't want it. That can't be inferred. It's just we all know that this property has been what the use has been. There's never been any complaints. I mean, it's still as clean today as it was when the last 2 applicants were on the property. So I'm not worried. I don't think any of us are worried there. It's just, unfortunately, we have to look at how class 2s have come to us asking for the world, and they haven't been able to prove it on paper that it could actually work. And unfortunately, all the information that we have, what you've currently submitted, plus everything that was previously submitted on the property, it just doesn't work. None of it works, and it doesn't bode well for you if we base it on that. So, I think I'm comfortable enough to say that if anybody else, let's see, I see everybody that's at the meeting. Nobody's here to speak in favor. Nobody's here to speak opposed. I'm going to open it up one last time to the board. If you got anything to say, talk to me now.
I'm good, Mr. Chairman. I don't have anything else to add.
Mr. Haynes? Mr. Hessian, I heard you. Mr. Haynes, you're good. Mr. Baker Jr., you're good. Mr. Baker, you're good. Mr. Galley, you're good. All right. Let's see. Hearing none. The board. Okay. Any remaining questions? Hearing none. I'd like a motion to close the public hearing for discussion.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I got a second?
Second.
I got a second. I need a roll call. Mr. Hessian?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Mr. Haynes?
Yes.
Mr. Baker Jr.?
Yes.
And Mr. Madeline?
Yes.
Okay, that's all good. All right. So here we go. George, the board will deliberate tonight, and I'm reading a piece of paper here, so I'm not looking at you. The board will deliberate tonight, and you are welcome to stay. Stay on the meeting if you want. You'll receive a decision in the mail with a date stamp, 21 days from the date stamp on the decision. You're going to go to the town clerk's office, request a certificate of no appeal. If no one has appealed, the town clerk will give you a certification and a copy of the original decision. You're going to take those to the registry of deeds. You can go to the satellite office on Hingham Street in Rockland, and you can have them recorded. And then one of the conditions is to show the building department proof that you recorded the decision.
Okay.
All set?
All set.